Hello again, everyone. I recently had a request to swatch my Isaro watercolors after they have dried in the pan. I can't remember if I did any of that before. I think I swatched the swatchings that I have on the channel for the Isaro watercolors were all when they were still wet in the pan, because like I had just put them in there or something. So I'm gonna do that now. This isn't my entire Isaro watercolor collection, but this is sort of like a a one-off that I can do pretty easily. So this is, with the exception of one color, which is Schminke Random Gray. These are all Isaro colors. And I put them into this insert. This is from Poems About You, this little insert is, and it fit perfectly in this little tin. So I'll tell you right now, I have a few issues with this method of storing watercolor dried. First off, these wells are super deep because they are the width of the container, which is pretty deep compared to a regular pan of watercolor. I don't know if I don't have an empty pan handy, but it is deeper than a normal pan of watercolor. And with these, and I don't think it's just Isaro because the Schminke also really went down really far. When they shrink, they shrank really a lot. And then I had to, now I kind of have to dig in there, and that's not good for your brushes. But I will do what I can. But I wouldn't do this again. And I probably would just put regular pans into this kind of thing instead of using the form fitting. It's kind of nice because it fits exactly, but it's not the best. I could top these off, but then I would be continually topping these off, and then I would never really get to the bottom. Anyway, so there's a lot of potential issues there. So I'm going to leave that there. And this is a little preview of the colors. I think I did these swatches when they were still wet. And I will swatch them all on this page. So just a quick note, this paper is not my normal swatch paper. This is a Jackson's watercolor notebook, which has really thin watercolor paper. It still actually handles watercolor really nicely, but it does buckle if you leave a lot of wet media on there. So my plan for this swatch book, it's not really a swatch book, is the previous pages that I've just sort of played on, I am going to cover up with either gesso or other mixed media and turn this into a mixed media sketchbook. At some point, I am nearing the end, actually. But I don't know that I would use this as a swatch book overall, just because of the thinness of the paper. Especially if there's going to be a lot of watercolor involved. And then I did also want to share, I either shared these or will share them in a future video, these clips that I recently got from Amazon. I have been searching high and low for book clips that would hold the page open and not slip off. So these are really great. They hold really well. They will accommodate a large number of pages. As you see, this side, has quite a chunky bit of pages here, and it's holding them just fine and not slipping. So I'll put a link I'll put a link to those as well, because if you're like me, you were searching for those. So all right, so let's go ahead and get started here. It's just going to be a quick video. So the first one, and it's a little contaminated because I clearly made some greens from this yellow. So this is Isaro Yellow Light. And I have found personally that painting these from dry are just as good as painting them from wet. You do obviously need to work them a little bit more, but they re-wet really easily with the exception of just a couple of colors. The reason why I'm kind of digging in there is because of the palette shape and size, which we've already talked about. All right, and I didn't pre-wet any of these, so I kind of did that on purpose because I wanted you to see how they would re-wet from dry, completely dry. I don't know if that's a brush fiber or maybe I also have some dog fur on here. My dog makes his way into everything because of his fur. He's a very furry dog. Okay, so this one was yellow ochre. This is oxide orange, which is actually a really lovely muted orange color. Then we have Venetian red, and I'll tell you when the colors are harder to re-wet. These have all been delightful. so far. Like I said, this is Venetian red. Then there's scarlet red. And luckily I haven't had to super scrub them because I really don't want to like get down in there and really work away on them. Okay, so that was scarlet red. This is Isaro rose. And that re-wet lovely, perfectly well. Sure, I'll just do the Schmincke random gray just for fun. It's a really great color. It's really nice with a lot of extra water because it granulates really nicely. Then we have, so the rest are all Isaro, so I'm not gonna tell you that each time. This is Payne's Gray. Again, re-wetting wonderfully. Then we have Boreal Blue, which, let's see. No, that's re-wetting well too. I wonder, sometimes the more sparkly colors take a little bit more to re-wet. This does have some shimmer to it. And then I have Sateen Blue, and this particular one got really, really dry in the pan, but still re-wetting just fine. And this was really sort of stiff in the tube itself, so it was really hard to get out of the tube, actually. So then we have Ultramarine Blue, which is a really good staple color, perfectly re-wetting. Phthalo Blue, and Phthalo Blue generally has some pretty intense colors. So I would say, you know, and this has been my experience with these, for the most part, they re-wet really, really easily. And this is Nordman Green, which has a beautiful granulation. I'm actually going to add a little bit more water to this on this side, just so that hopefully we can get some of that out. Sap Green, and actually this Sap Green has become one of my favorite sap greens. And you can see these are totally dry, and I am not really scrubbing at them, and they're doing fine. So this next one, Chartreuse Yellow, which has also become a favorite color of mine. And of course another favorite, Powdery Pink, which I know re-wets well. I have it in other pans elsewhere. Then we have Burnt Sienna, which this one, okay, so the last two in here, I feel like have a little bit of a harder time, but you know, not too bad. We didn't have to go too far to get that one. The next one, which is Imperial Moon, is, I know, a little bit harder to re-wet. See, you barely got anything with that first pass, and I've had to add a lot more water and really scrub at it to get color. That is the only one that of any of the ones I have in any of my palettes that I've had this trouble with. But I do think the payoff is kind of worth it. Man, yeah, I'm getting all kinds of fibers in here. Sorry about that. The payoff is really worth it because it has just a beautiful, shimmery, granulating brown. But that one is tough. Just if you're looking for colors to get, just know that that one is a tough re-wetter. But everything else, you know, the Burnt Sienna was a little harder, but not crazy. But everything else was wonderful. No problems at all. So let me put this up to the camera so you can see. So really nice and saturated for the most part. Beautiful. You can see that granulation in that Schmincke Random Gray, and you can see a little bit of that here in this Nordman Green. I would say that if you were to buy just a few colors of the Schmincke, or I'm sorry, the Isaro watercolor, I was just thinking Schmincke because of that one there. Oh, and I realized that my hands are a little bit dirty. I've been working with charcoal today, so that's kind of hard to wash all the way off. So anyway, back to, if you were just to get a few colors, I actually wouldn't necessarily get the standard colors, even though they're beautiful. And in fact, if you just wanted to get a trio of colors, this yellow light, the rose, and the phthalo blue would make a great primary palette with just those three. But the colors that really impress me are these four here. So the Nordman Green, I definitely would recommend. I guess it's a lot of greens. Sap Green and Chartreuse Yellow, I love those two. As far as the Sap Green goes, this is one of my favorites. They tend to really vary by brand. And the Powdery Pink is just a lovely shade of Powdery Pink, and it really mixes well. Let me see. I'm going to mix that. This is a mix I've probably done before on the channel, but I will do it again. This is powdery pink, and then let's go with the sap green, because I don't know that I've done that before. So that and the sap green, which it really nicely tones down. And you see, I mean, now that they're a little bit wet, they're really going to town as far as saturation. I'm just adding a little bit more pink. So really lovely muted green there, and then I'm going to add a little bit more pink, and then you get a really nice, I don't even know what you'd call that. Greenish gray, maybe, but it leads to some really beautiful mixes, and you can kind of see it better watered down there. I really love that. It's almost like a greener yellow ochre. I like muted colors. So in spite of it being a pink, it actually is a really great mixing color. And because it's opaque, it can kind of act like a whitish, like a warm white. But I really love these. Another one that I really like is the Boreal Blue, but I think that's kind of an optional color. And their Payne's Gray is really nice. This is the kind of Payne's Gray I really like. This with a dark blue tinge to it. That's the Payne's Grays I prefer. But again, I mean, you would do well with any of these colors because they're really beautiful. I might stay away from the earth tones, especially with the burnt sienna, just because like we showed, it is a little hard to re-wet, and there's in my opinion, there's better brands that do burnt sienna. My usual burnt sienna is Holbein. And that re-wets beautifully. It runs a little orange, but I really love it. Actually, I think their burnt sienna might look a little bit more like the orange oxide from Isaro. But there you go. Just sort of a quick update of how those wet from dry, which is very, very easily. And you can see even more of that granulation developing in that Nordman green. If you like a really, really deep, almost teal green, and if you apply it lightly, it can be much brighter. This is a great color. I find that it's out of stock a lot on Jackson's, which is where I normally get my Isaro watercolors. And when you could wait for a sale on watercolors, because these tend to be pretty inexpensive during sales. But anyway, going back to my prior statement, this tends to be out of stock a lot at Jackson's, and so I'm clearly not the only one that is a fan and knows about it. But I think that's all I had for you today. Feel free to subscribe to keep track of future videos on my channel. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like. I hope to see you next time, but in the meantime, have a great day. Thanks so much. Bye.